It arrives crispy, golden, folded into shapes that look decorative rather than traditional. It is creamy inside, crunchy outside, and instantly familiar to American diners. For many people, it is the first thing ordered when opening a Chinese takeout menu. And yet, Crab Rangoon does not come from China. It was never part of Chinese culinary tradition. It was invented in the United States. To understand how Crab Rangoon came to exist, you first have to understand what it contains. Cream cheese is not a traditional Chinese ingredient. It does not appear in Chinese cooking history. It was not commonly available in China, and it was never used in dumplings, pastries, or fried snacks. Crab Rangoon could not have existed in China because one of its core ingredients did not exist there in any meaningful way. This alone tells us something important. Crab Rangoon was not imported. It was created. The story begins in mid-20th century America, when Chinese restaurants were no longer just survival businesses. They were becoming mainstream. American diners had grown comfortable ordering Chinese food, but they still wanted it to feel safe, indulgent, and familiar. Cream cheese represented comfort. Fried wonton wrappers represented novelty. Together, they formed something Americans immediately understood. The name, Crab Rangoon, suggests something exotic, something Asian, something old. But the dish itself reflects American marketing more than Chinese tradition. The name evokes mystery. The flavor delivers familiarity. That balance was intentional. Chinese-American restaurateurs had learned something crucial by this point. American customers did not want authenticity. They wanted reassurance. They wanted food that felt indulgent, rich, and recognizable. Crab Rangoon delivered all three. The crab flavor itself was often minimal or symbolic. Sometimes it was imitation crab. Sometimes it was barely present at all. The real star was the cream cheese. This was not a mistake. Cream cheese was expensive enough to signal value, rich enough to signal indulgence, and familiar enough to feel safe. Crab Rangoon emerged during a period when American Chinese food was shifting toward appetizers and combination meals. Restaurants needed items that could be fried quickly, sold cheaply, and shared easily. Crab Rangoon fit perfectly. It traveled well. It stayed crispy. It paired well with sweet dipping sauces. It became an instant success. There is no equivalent dish in China. No historical record. No regional version. No traditional ancestor. Crab Rangoon belongs entirely to the American Chinese restaurant system. Like General Tso's chicken and egg foo young, Crab Rangoon reflects adaptation rather than preservation. It exists because Chinese cooks understood American indulgence. Critics often dismiss Crab Rangoon as fake or ridiculous, but that criticism ignores its context. Crab Rangoon is not pretending to be Chinese. It is pretending to be American comfort food with an exotic accent. That distinction matters. Crab Rangoon also reveals how power operates through menus. American diners had money. Chinese cooks needed customers. The menu adapted accordingly. Food history is often told as a story of tradition. But American Chinese food is a story of negotiation. Crab Rangoon sits at the center of that negotiation. By the time Crab Rangoon became widespread, Chinese restaurants had learned how to engineer familiarity. Creamy fillings, crispy textures, sweet sauces. These elements were not Chinese. They were American. Crab Rangoon thrived because it fit American dining habits. It was an appetizer. It encouraged sharing. It increased order size. It made economic sense. Over time, the dish became so common that Americans assumed it was ancient. Menus reinforced this illusion. The name sounded old. The wrappers looked traditional. The truth remained hidden. Crab Rangoon tells us something uncomfortable about authenticity. What Americans call authentic often has more to do with repetition than origin. If something appears everywhere long enough, it begins to feel traditional. This is how Crab Rangoon became Chinese in the American imagination. Not through history, through habit. Chinese cooks did not lose their culture when they invented Crab Rangoon. They demonstrated control over it. They chose adaptation. Crab Rangoon also reflects American expectations around indulgence. Chinese cuisine values balance. American cuisine values richness. Crab Rangoon leans entirely toward richness. This does not make it inferior. It makes it specific. Crab Rangoon belongs to the United States. It was created here, perfected here, consumed here. Understanding this history does not ruin the dish. It explains it. Crab Rangoon is not a failure of tradition. It is evidence of survival through creativity. When Chinese immigrants faced exclusion, suspicion, and limitation, food became a bridge. Crab Rangoon was part of that bridge. It invited Americans in. It said, "This is safe." It worked. Today, Crab Rangoon remains one of the most ordered items on American Chinese menus. Its popularity has outlived its origin story. But the story still matters. Because food remembers what people forget. Crab Rangoon is not Chinese. It is Chinese American. And that distinction tells the truth. This is Chop Suey Stories, where familiar food reveals unfamiliar history, where American Chinese cuisine is understood not as imitation, but as invention.